Hi everyone, welcome back to the PyNet Labs. Today we are here to talk about another webinar, which is going to discuss the library called Netmiko. So in this webinar today, we will be talking about a very amazing Netmiko library, which is used for creating secure connections with the network devices. We'll be talking about how it works, how it can be used for fetching out the information from the network device, how it can be used for pushing the configuration on the device. So when we talk about this library, the purpose of this library is to, we can say, simplify each and every configurational command so that you can write a Python script and can do the automation using the secure connection of SSH with the help of this library called Netmiko. So we'll be looking into how we can simplify the execution and configurations of the routers. Then we'll be also looking into how we can fetch the details. We'll look into what all platforms are supported. Then what are the mandatory arguments which we need to assign to the Python script to get started with the Netmiko library. So we are going to talk about all of that. But yeah, let me first of all share my screen and explain you about this library called Netmiko. Okay, so I hope my screen is visible to you all. Let's get started. I'll open my notepad here.
If you enjoyed the content of the video, don't forget to like and share the video and subscribe to our channel.
So we are here to discuss about the Python library called Netmiko. Now Netmiko is used to create a secure connection with the target device and to simplify the execution of configurational commands, and we can say simplify the process of fetching the information from the device. Then in order to perform this particular task, in order to first of all get connected to your network device, what you need is you need a module called connect handler. So the very first requirement is going to be connect handler module, which is a part of the Netmiko library. Once you import this connect handler module or class, you will be able to connect with your remote devices through SSH. Obviously, that will require some required arguments like the IP address of your device, the type of your device, like whether it is a Cisco iOS device, whether it is Cisco iOS XE device, if it is iOS XR device, or any other operating system as well. So like there is a wide list of all the supported platforms which can be used with Netmiko, which includes various devices. Like if I try to list them all, so there's going to be Arista devices, there's going to be Cisco ASA, there's going to be NXOS devices, some Linux operating systems, then not just with the limited vendors like Arista or Cisco, we have a wide supportability over Huawei devices, over Juniper devices, Microtech, Nokia, and many more. So I'll put a link in the description box where you can explore this list and look into all the supported device which we can work with using the Netmiko library. So as I mentioned earlier, the connect handler requires some of the certain arguments like the IP, then the device type. You will specify that whether it's your iOS or some other operating system device, you will specify that under device type. Then you need the username and password to get authenticated. So these are the four required informations which you have to specify while using the connect handler module. Then once you are done connecting with the device, the next particular task is making configurations, right? Or fetching out the information. So whenever you are willing to fetch out some certain information from your device, you take the help of show commands, right? Which you run in the privilege mode. So in order to execute these show commands, we have another function here, which is send underscore command. So send underscore command is basically used to execute all show commands. Send command will ask you about the command which you wanna fetch out from your device. So for example, I want to look into the routing table. So I'll say send underscore command bracket, and inside the bracket, I'll specify that I'm willing to fetch out the information using command show IP route. So once I do that, it will print out the routing table for me in the terminal. That's how it works. Then similarly, now let's say before printing out the routing table, I want to do some um, interface configuration, let's say. So I want to configure 5 interfaces on my device. And in order to do that, we again have another function called send underscore config underscore set and brackets. Here under the bracket, you will be mentioning the list of commands. These particular functions are used for executing the configurational commands. So whenever you wish to make any change into your router, whenever you wish to create any configurations on your device, at that time you will be using send config set. So you specify all your commands into a list, and then you call that list inside the send config set function to create the configurations. Then we also have one particular function which can be used for saving the running configuration file to startup configuration file. Just like in CLI, you run the commands like write or copy running to startup config. Just like that, here in this particular Netmiko library, you have got a specified function which is save underscore config. This is used for, we can say, saving configurations into the permanent memory. This will save all of my configurations so that even if somehow my router gets restarted, then also I can find the same set of configurations which I did earlier. So these are few things related to Netmiko library. These are few functions which we will be exploring one by one. So as of now, we have discussed that Netmiko is used for creating a secure connection with the device. So first of all, in order to create a secure connection with the device, I need to know that where exactly my device is, right? For which I'll need the IP address of my device. And along with that, my device should be enabled with SSH. So let's get started. I have kept a small lab ready. So inside my EUNG setup, I have this router 1 where I'm going to assign the IP 10.255.1.101. So let's do that. And let's also configure SSH on the device. So I'm going to say no to the question. Let's wait for a few seconds. All right, the router is ready to be configured. I'm going to say enable config t hostname R1, then interface gig 0/0 IP space address 10.255.1.101, 255.255.255.0, and then no shutdown. So in case if you are wondering that what is this cloud in my topology, so basically this router 1 is connected to this cloud. So in case you are wondering that what is this cloud doing in my topology, then the router is connected to the cloud, which is going to help me in connecting my Windows machine with the router. So this cloud is there to provide a connectivity with between my PC and the router, so that when I run a particular script on my PC, the configurations can be executed onto the router. As of now, I have just configured the IP address on my device. Let's begin the SSH configurations. I'm going to take the exit here. IP domain name abc.com. Then crypto key generate RSA general keys modulus. Let's take the size of 1024 bits. Then IP SSH version 2. Then I'll create the username admin with the privilege of 15 and the password Cisco. After that, I'll go to the virtual lines, line VTY 0 space 4, login local, transport input all, and then exit. Let me write down the commands here on the screen for you guys. So I've said enable configure terminal, then host name R1, interface gig 0/0, IP space address 10.255.1.101, 255.255.255.0, no shutdown, exit. Then we started configuring the SSH. So IP domain name abc.com, crypto key generate RSA, general keys modulus 1024, username admin, privilege 15, password Cisco, then IP SSH version 2. After that line we device 0 space 4, login local, transport input all, and then exit. This completes my SSH configuration on the device. These are the set of commands which will be required for that. After this, I can verify that whether SSH is working or not by creating a new PuTTY session. So I'll say new session, and in the host name category, I'll put the IP address 10.255.1.101. Click on open. Okay, let me try this again. So new session 10.255.1.101. Accepted. Let me increase the font size. So login as I have created the username admin, and then it will ask me about the password. The password is Cisco. Once I enter the correct credentials, I will be inside my router and say exit to close the session. So basically SSH is working and we are good to get started with the Netmiko library. So let me open this VS Code. This is a script which I was working on. So let me remove this first of all. Yeah. So in this particular VS Code, you can write down your programming scripts, and it's a great editor for writing any programming script, be it Python, be it some other language. So I prefer using this one. There are many more options are available, but yeah, this one is provided by Microsoft and I like this one. So I am preferring and also suggesting you guys also to explore this one. So let's get started. Here I have a file called test.py. I will close this one and we'll create a new file here. So I'm going to say new file, select the Python file. Let me save it first, Control+S. I'll go to desktop and here I'll save it with the name webinar.py. Now this webinar.py file is ready and it's basically the Python file which we have to create. Now, in this Python file, as I mentioned earlier, in order to use the Netmiko library, I first of all have to import that library, right? I need to import the required class called connect handler, first of all, to get started with the executions. So what I will say is I'm going to say from library called Netmiko, import the class called connect handler, like this. This is the very first step. After importing the class connect handler, I'll be able to use it, right? So in order to do the installation of Netmiko, you can use the command python-m pip install Netmiko. This is a third-party library. It will not be there with the Python package. You have to install it separately. So go to your terminal and run this particular command to do the installation of Netmiko library. Once you have successfully imported the connect handler module, now it's time to specify about those 4 arguments which I was talking about initially. The IP address, the device type, the username, and the password. So either you can provide this information directly with the connect handler module, or you can specify this in a particular dictionary, then call that dictionary later on with the connect handler module. So I will first of all define it in a dictionary. Let's say my dictionary name will be router is equals to, in curly brackets, specify the first thing as device underscore type. So in my topology, the router I have is a iOS router. So I will specify that the device type is Cisco underscore iOS, comma. The next thing I need to define is the IP address. So IP colon, what is the IP which we have configured on the router? It is 10.255.1.101, right? So I'll specify that, put a comma. In the next line, I will put the information related to the username. So username colon, the username is going to be admin, like this, comma. Lastly, I need to provide the password. So password colon, password is going to be Cisco. Once you provide this information into a dictionary, we are good to create the SSH connection using connect handler module. So I'll be creating a variable called SSH, which will contain the connection which I am building with the router. So connect handler, inside the bracket, I will call my dictionary router. So whenever you call your dictionary, you call it with double star, and then I will say router. Now this line number 10 is basically used for getting connected, getting connected with the remote device using SSH, right? So after this, I want my script to print out a particular statement which can confirm that SSH was successfully enabled. So I'll say print bracket SSH connection established successfully. So if the line number 10 will get executed, then after that, the line number 12 will be used for printing out the statement SSH connection established successfully. Now we are successfully connected with the router, right? Next task is executing some show commands. So first we will try to execute some show commands to understand how it fetch out the information from the device. Then later on, we will try pushing the configurations as well on the device. I'll say I want to use a particular function, right? So let's look at the notepad and let's try to find out which function is going to be used for fetching out information. So let me know in the chat box which one do you think is the appropriate one? Perfect. So send command is the one which we have to use here to fetch out the information from the device, as it is going to be used for executing all the show commands. So let's try to fetch out the information of IP addresses which we have on the interfaces. So for doing that, we have the command show IP interface brief, right? So we'll use that here and we'll try to fetch out the details. So what I'll do is I'll create a new variable called interface underscore details is equals to, and against my connection, which I have built in the variable SSH, I will use the function called send underscore command to send a particular command, right? Inside the bracket, you will specify what do you want to send onto your router. So it is show IP interface brief, which I want to send on my device, right? Then in order to look into the details, you will simply say print interface underscore details so that we can see what output are we actually getting. Now our complete script at this point would be this only. First, we are importing the connect handler, then we are creating a template, then we are connecting to the router, and then we are fetching the information of show IP interface brief. Let's try to run this and let's see how the execution works. When I click on this play button, let's see what happens. So this is my terminal here. It is executing this current script and it prints out SSH connection established successfully. Then later on, it provides me the information of all the interfaces of my router. So basically, show IP interface brief was executed onto the device, and then we are getting this output. Now I can also change this command to something else. Let's say show IPR. I'll change it to show IPR to look into the details of R. Save it, run it again, and there you go. It prints out the details related to R. So the thing is that this particular send command function can be used for fetching out the details using any show command, be it show IP route, be it show IPR, be it show IP interface brief, or show running config, any of the show command can be used. Now, as of now, also the script is very static, right? We can optimize this a little bit more. So we can ask our user directly, what show command do you want to execute? So let's say user underscore choice is equals to. So input is the function which we use for asking the user directly about some information. I'm going to ask my user, enter the command, or rather enter the show command which you want to execute. And then once my user provides that information, I'll say that I want to send that only using my function called send command. So now when the execution will happen, it will happen according to the information provided by my user, right? Because I'm calling this variable user choice, whatever value will be provided by my user, only that value will be sent to the device. So let's try to run the script again and let's see how it is different now. So it is asking me about the show command which I want to execute. Let's say show IP route. And there you go. It prints out the routing table. And now if I try it again, if I run the script again and mention show IP interface brief as the command, show IP interface brief. So it prints out the interface details, right? So we can say this is now a kind of a template which can be used for executing any of the show commands. And it is the user now who provides the information. So we have objectified the script a little more, and now it is not static script, which is just going to run one single command. No, it is not like that. Rather, it is a script which will ask the user directly that what particular command you want to execute, and then it will do the execution according to the information provided. Similarly, we will also try creating a script which can do configurations on the device. So let's see how that will work. I'm going to create a new file here. And let me save it with the name webinar2.py. Now in this particular file also, in order to get started, first of all, I need the module connect handler. So I'll say from Netmiko import connect handler. Then I will talk about my device. So this time I will not mention the username and password directly. Rather, I'll ask my user only to provide this information. So I'll say username is equals to, again, the input function, and will ask my user to enter the username like this. Similarly, I'll ask the information about the password. So password is equals to input bracket, enter the password. Now let's create the dictionary which will be used for connecting to the device. So let's say R1 is my dictionary name. The very first information I need to provide is the device underscore type, which is Cisco iOS. So I'll specify that. Then in the next line, I'll specify about the IP address. IP is 10.255.1.101 in my case. Then the username is going to be whatever is provided inside the variable called username by my user. So username is going to be the variable username. Then similarly, the password is going to be the variable called password, like this. Then here we will try to create a connection with the router. So SSH is equals to connect handler. And inside the bracket, I'll call my dictionary called R1. Then again, I will print out a statement which says that SSH connection was established. So print SSH connection established with router successfully. Something like this. Okay, now we are done connecting to the router, right? Now it's time to understand how we can write a script for creating configurations on the device. Now let's come back to the notepad and let's see what exact function we need. So the one which is used for executing the configurational commands is send config set. But inside the bracket, I have to specify the commands in the list, right? So we will create a list of commands first, and then we will call that list later on under the function send config set. Easy, right? So let's create the list of commands with the name commands. Commands is equals to a list where my first element is going to be the first command which I want to execute. So let's say we will create a loop back on my route number one. So let's first try writing the commands which we use inside the CLI to create the loopback. So the very first one is going to be configure terminal, right? And then interface loopback one, then the IP space address space 1111, and then the subnet mask. Then description can be there. Let's say configured by Chirag. And that's all, right? Then if let's say you are configuring any physical interface, no shutdown will also be added into the list. But the thing is, the one point which we have to understand here is that this particular function is designed to send the configurations in the configuration mode only, right? So we actually don't require this configure terminal command, because when I send something through send config set, that by default will be executed in the configuration mode. So we can directly get started from interface loopback one. And the good part is we also don't have to worry about exiting the mode. That will also be taken care by the function itself. So let's get started. Let's define all the three commands in a list. Here's my list called commands. The very first command is interface loopback one, right? Then you put a comma and define the next command as a separate element. So that's IP space address 1.1.1.1 space 255.255.255.0. Then again a comma, and the last command, which is about description, that's going to be configured by Chirag. These are the three commands which I want to execute, right? And in order to do the execution, I need the function called send config set. So let's do that. So interface configs is equals to ssh dot send underscore config underscore set. This is the one. And then inside the bracket, I'll call my list called commands. Simple. Then in order to look at the execution, you can say print interface configs, and this will print out the list of commands which are getting executed on the router here inside the terminal as well. Now this particular script is here ready to configure a loopback one with the IP address 1111 and the subnet mask of /24 and the description of configured by Chirag. So let's try to run the script and let's see how this works. When I run the script, the very first thing it is asking me about is the username, because this time I have not provided the static values. Rather, I have created the variables which can ask my user directly about the usernames. So if in case you have multiple usernames, then again, we don't have to worry about it now. So username, which I have as admin, then the password, which I have is Cisco. SSH connection established with router successfully. After that, went into the configuration mode, then created the loopback one by using the commands interface loopback one, IP address this, description this, and end. Can you see that? Just by a single click, you have quickly created the loopback one. You can verify this by going into the CLI and running the command show IP interface brief. Or even we don't have to do it from CLI. We have a script for that as well, right? I'll come back to my previous script. We'll run it here. So enter the show command which you want to execute. I want to execute show IP interface brief. And there you go. We can see now in the list, loopback 1 is also added with the IP 1111. Now, like we tried optimizing the script here in this case, similarly, we'll try to do it in this scenario also, because currently this script is also very static and can only create one loopback, that too loopback 1, and with the particular specified IP address and the subnet mask and the description, right? But what if I want to create loopback 5? So do I have to change the script every time? No. So we'll try to make it more objectified by bringing in some more objects where we ask the user directly about the information. So what all information do I need? I need the IP address, right? I need, even before IP, I need the name of the interface which we are willing to configure. Then I need IP and subnet mask. Then I need description. So these are 4 things which I have to ask from my user. So let's quickly ask about these 4 things into 4 different variables. So I'm going to say interface underscore name is equals to input bracket, enter the name of interface. Then I need to ask about the IP address, right? So int underscore IP is equals to input bracket, enter the interface IP address. Then I need to ask about the interface mask. So int underscore mask input bracket, enter the interface mask. Last thing is the description. So int underscore description is equals to input bracket, enter the interface description. After taking all these values, I really want to use the value provided by my user for doing the configurations, right? But for doing that, I need to make a little changes because currently the list of commands still contain the information about loopback 1. Let's change that. We will replace the static information with these variables. So I'll remove loopback 1 from the command and I will concatenate the command with the variable called interface name. So by doing this, the command becomes interface space and whatever name will be provided by my user, that name will be added here. Similarly, I have to modify the remaining commands. So IP address, IP space address, I'll remove the IP and the subnet information. Then I'm going to concatenate it with the variable called int underscore IP like this. Then int underscore mask. But wait a second. By doing this concatenation, the command will become IP space address space whatever IP will be provided, let's say 2222. Then without any space, it will put the subnet mask because we are not specifying any space between the IP address and mask, right? So we have to do it by creating an empty string. So after the plus sign, I'll create an empty string, will give a space inside it, and then I will concatenate it again with the variable interface mask so that the outcome can be IP space address, the IP address, then again a space, and then the subnet mask, right? Then for description, I will remove the information here and will leave the space and will concatenate it again with the variable called int underscore description. Perfect. Now this is a template which can be used for any interface configuration, be it loopback, be it physical, be it any other interface. But there is one missing command which we can add here, which is no shutdown, to make sure that if in case we are configuring the physical interface, then it can come up. So I'll put a comma here and then give a space and then specify the command no shutdown. Save the configurations, close the terminal, and we'll try to run the script again. This time, let's try to create a loopback 2 onto my router. So enter the username, admin, enter the password, Cisco. Enter the name of interface, loopback 2, enter the IP address 2.2.2.2, 255.255.255.255 will be the subnet mask. Enter the description, test, SSH connection established with router successfully, went onto the device and then configured the loopback 2. And we can see that whatever information we have provided, according to that only the execution has happened. Again, I can check this into my CLI by going to the CLI and running the command show IP interface brief. I can say show IP interface brief. When I do that, I can see loopback 2 is also created with the mentioned IP address. Now, we can also do one more thing. We can combine the first Python script with the second one by just simply copying these 3 commands from here and then pasting them into the second script, so that the script not just configures the interface, but also provides the user a choice of printing out a show command. So if, for example, I configure a loopback 3 this time and then try to look into the information, show IP interface brief. So I don't have to go to the CLI. I can just do the execution directly from here. So let's test this one as well. So I'm going to save it, close the terminal, run the script again. This time I'll try to configure the physical interface. So let's put the IP on gig 0/1. Let's see how that works. Admin. Cisco is the password. Enter the interface name. So gig 0/1. Enter the interface IP. Let's say 192.168.1.1. Enter the mask 255.255.255.0. Description, test, SSH connection established with router successfully, did the configuration, and now it is asking me about enter the show command which you want to execute. I want to execute show IP interface brief to verify the configurations. And when I hit enter, it prints out the details and we can see gigabit Ethernet 0/1 is successfully configured with the IP we mentioned. So that's how capable automation is. And that's how nice Netmiko library is. So you can do various kind of things and not just on one single router. You can do the same kind of configuration on multiple routers. So you can either use for loops for doing that. So for loops are used for reiterating some set of configurations to a specified number of times. So either you can use that way, or you can also use some, we can say, advanced automation concepts like multi-threading with the Netmiko library. So you can use multi-threading to execute the configuration on multiple devices, that too at the same time. So you are configuring 5 routers at the same point of time. It will hardly take few seconds. So that's the capabilities of automation which you can explore, right? As of now, we are discussing about the interface configuration and executing the show command to fetch out the information into the terminal. So this was a quick, we can say, explanation of how we can configure details and how we can fetch out the information from the router and configure details to the router. So if you guys have any question regarding the concept which we have discussed till now, then please let me know in the chat box. Yes, that's correct. So in order to work it out with some other devices, you will have to specify the device type here, whatever device you are using. For example, you are using XE, then you will have to specify here that it is Cisco XE device. Similarly, if it is ASA, then you have to specify Cisco ASA. So there is a whole list. As I mentioned earlier, I'll put the description link in the description, which you can look into to look at all the supported platforms. All right, now let's try one more thing. Let's try, okay, we have another question. Can we export this? Yes, you can export this particular details into a text file or some other file. For doing that, we have some functions which can be used for exporting information into a particular file. Let me show you how it works. I'll create a new text file first of all. Text file, and I'm going to save it with the name output. So output Okay, we already have one with the same name. So let me name it output1.txt. Okay, we have this file as the empty file, right? So I'm going to copy the path here of this file, copy path. I'll come back to my script and here I'll open this particular output. So my file is equals to the function which we use for opening any file into a Python script is simply open bracket, inside the inverted comma, specify the path. So every time you specify a path, you have to change the slashes from single slash to double slash. So every backslash which you have here has to be changed into double backslash like this. Then after specifying the path, the next argument which you are supposed to run here is the permission. So what kind of permission you want to take for this particular text file? Whether it's going to be a writing permission. So that's something where only the output will be there in the text file. So that will be specified by W, or whether you want to provide the appending permission. Appending means whatever is there in the text file that will stay there, but the output which you are trying to export will be added. When you say W, which is the writing permission, everything which is there on the file will be removed and only the output will exist. Then we also have reading permission, which is used for reading the files. So I'll be using writing one here. Once I have successfully opened the file, the next task is to write information into that file, right? So I will say my file dot write as a function. Inside the bracket, I will specify what I want to write into the file. I want to write, let's say, interface details. Interface details is the basic variable where I run the show command, right? This information which I was printing earlier in the terminal, I want to write it down into the text file like this. Then I can say print a statement that output exported successfully like this. Save this. Let's try to run the script again now, and this time we will create a loopback number 4. So let's see how this works this time. Okay, very first thing is the question about the username. So enter the username. My username is admin. Or let me do one more thing. I will delete the terminal for the time being and will add a new library called getPass. From getPass, I will import the class getPass. Now this getPass is used for hiding the inputs. So when you take the information of password, you will be using getPass here, so that whenever my user provides the password, that is hidden. Not everyone can see it. So let's run it again and let's see how getPass works as well. So this time when I run the script, the very first question is going to be about the username. So enter the username. The username we have is admin. Enter the password. Now observe this. When I type Cisco, it is getting typed, but you cannot see it. Once I hit enter, it is asking me about the next interface. Enter the interface name. So you can obviously you can make it more better by specifying things like enter the interface name which you want to configure, enter the IP which you want to configure on the selected interface, and so on. So here I'll create the loopback 4. The loopback 4 is the interface name. Enter the IP 4.4.4.4. Enter the subnet mask 255.255.255.0. Description, let's say test again. And then SSH connection established with router successfulully. It prints out the configurational commands of loopback 4. Then asking me about the show command which I want to execute. I want to execute show IP interface brief. Enter. And this time it is not printing out the details into the terminal because we removed that print statement. And then it is printing out output exported successfully. So let's check the output file. Do we have any information here? Yes, we have, and we can see that the particular information which we wanted to export to this text file is successfully exported. So that's how you can export any of the information to a specified file by using these set of commands, just these two commands. First, you open the file, then you write the information inside it. That's it. So this was a quick explanation of how you can export details into a third-party file. Now, in case you have any questions regarding whatever we have discussed till now, then please let me know in the chat box. Otherwise, we are good to move to the next part where we explore how we can configure multiple interfaces in the same go by using a for loop. All right, let's look ahead and let's try to see how multiple interfaces can be created by adding a for loop into the scenario. So what I want to do here is I want to first of all ask my user that how many interfaces are you willing to configure on the device? Then according to the information provided by my user, I am willing to execute the defined commands that number of time, right? And we know that in order to achieve this, we use for loop with the range keyword, right? So let's do that. Let's first of all ask the user about how many interfaces you want to configure. Let me create a new file so that we can understand it clearly. So this is my new Python file. First of all, I'll say from Netmiko import connect handler. Then in the next line, I will also import getPass. So from getPass, import getPass like this. Then it's time to create the variables which ask about the username and password. So username is equals to input bracket, enter your username, then password is equals to input bracket, enter your password. Then I'll create the dictionary to connect with the device. So router is equals to a dictionary where the first particular key is going to be the device underscore type. And the information inside it is going to be Cisco underscore iOS. Then I need to specify the IP address. So IP colon 10.255.1.101. That's the IP which I have. For username, we have the variable called username. So I'll say username colon username, comma, then password colon password, like this. So my template is ready. Now it's time to connect with the device. So SSH is equals to connect handler bracket star star the dictionary router. In the next line, the very first question which I have is asking the user about how many interfaces they are willing to configure. Because first of all, I need to know, right, that how many times I have to run the set of commands. So I'll ask my user, so user underscore choice is equals to, now this value which we take in using the input function is always going to be a string. So be it a number, be it a alphabet, it will always be considered as a string. So in order to make sure that whatever number is provided by my user is considered as an integer, I will use the function int. So int is the function to change the value into an integer. Inside the int function, I'll ask my user about how many interfaces do you want to configure, like this. Then whatever value is provided by my user, I have to use it inside my range keyword. So I'll create a for loop now for the pointer name can be anything. Let's say for interface in. Now we have to use the keyword range and you have to specify that what values are going to be there. So 0, comma. If for example, I put 2 here. So whatever I do inside the loop, that will be executed 2 times. If I put 0, comma 5, so whatever we define inside the for loop, that will be executed 5 times because it will do the reiteration 5 times. So we want to keep it user friendly So I will put user choice as the variable for the last number. So whatever value will be provided by my user, let's say my user says, how many interfaces do you want to configure? My user says, I want to configure 10 interfaces. So the for loop is going to help us in iterating the commands 10 times if we define it like this. So we will say for interface in range 0, comma user choice, then colon, then define what you want to do 10 times or how many number, whatever number is provided by my user. So I want to do the configurations, right? I'll come back to the previous script. We'll take it up from here. We'll ask my user about the interface name, the IP, the mask, description. Then after that, I'll ask, I'll do the configurations by using these two commands here. Like this. Then we also need to look into the output. So I'll say print interface configs as well in my new file. Now we have to fix the indentation. So I will select this data and we'll make it a part of loop by pressing the tab key. And now I can say it will execute inside the loop. Now my script is ready to be executed, right? So let's try to create two loopback interfaces this time and loopback 10 and loopback 20. Let's see how it works. So I'm going to play the script. I mean, run the script. The first question will be asked is going to be the username. So enter the username, that's admin, enter the password, Cisco. How many interfaces do we want to configure? I want to configure 2 interfaces. Enter the name of interface, loopback 10. Enter the IP, 10.10.10.10. Enter the mask, 255.255.255.0. Description, test. And there you go. It has successfully configured the loopback 10 and is still asking me about the interface name of it. And is still asking me about the name of interface. So it is asking me about another interface details because I selected the number as 2 and hence the for loop is iterating the commands 2 times. So enter the interface name. This time I will specify the loopback 20. Enter the IP 20.20.20.20. Enter the mask 255.0.0.0. Then description test. And there you go. It has successfully created the loopback 20 as well on my router. If I go into my CLI and try to verify the details by saying show IP interface brief. There you go. We can see loopback 10 and loopback 20 are successfully created. Now the script, the last one which we have worked on, the script is capable of creating as many interfaces as you want because you have defined a for loop which will keep asking you about all the interfaces which you want to configure on the device, and that too in the one go. You don't have to run the script again and again to put the interface configurations on multiple interfaces. Rather, you just have to specify how many interfaces you want to configure, and that will take care of the rest of the things. So that's how the Netmiko library can be used for various other kinds of configurations as well, be it some static routing configurations, be it some EIGRP, OSPF, or any other protocol configurations. You just need to define the commands inside the appropriate function, be it send command or send config set. And once you do that, you are good to do the configurations through Netmiko. Similarly, like we have defined separate scripts, you can bring in the concept of show command as well inside a for loop by defining it inside for loop that how many show commands do you want to execute. So as per my user provided information, I will do the execution that number of times. So it works like that. Give it a try. In case you get any questions, then do let me know in the comment box. And if you want to explore some more examples like today we have explored, then also let me know in the comment box that what would you like to see in the next webinar, what kind of configurations you would like to see through Netmiko in our next webinar. So we'll try to plan the webinar according to your defined topics. and we'll try to deliver the best for you guys. So in case you have any questions, then please let me know. Otherwise, we are good to wrap it up. All right, you are most welcome, guys. I'm glad you enjoyed the webinar. So thank you so much. I'll see you in some other webinar. Till then, keep practicing, keep exploring the Python libraries, and see you soon. Bye bye. Take care.